Under whatever circumstances you would see, how would you say your love and interest in the industries you work in, or even just life, has changed as you've gotten more and more experienced roles and gotten, I guess, more experience in life, older?
It's changed in a way that I feel like I have the ability to create what I would like to create. And so when you're a young actor, you want to extend your craft, and you have to go and audition, and sometimes I still have to go read for things. More often than not, I don't now. But that allowed me the ability to practice what I do and practice my craft every day. And so actors sometimes get tired of auditioning because it means they may be rejected, right? They go and they read and they don't get it. And that's for any of us if we go for a job interview and we don't get it. But there's something that I tell people that we forget, right? There's an equal exchange that goes on when you go for an audition or a job interview. So how many times do we sit there and they ask you your qualifications and you give them your resume, and they ask you, like, when can you start, dangling the carrot as if you may get it, and they ask you, if you were in this situation, what would you do, and do you have this qualification and that qualification and this qualification? And then they say, oh, thank you very much, we'll be in touch. And the instinct some of us have is to ask them a question, but we don't honor it because we want the job so badly. We don't want to feel like, we might upset the apple cart. And then we just hope that we did well, but we don't really know, but you really do know. But how could you extend yourself and do even better? You could say, oh, excuse me, wait a minute, I have a few questions for you. Oh, so this company, I noticed that you do this, this, and this. Are you open to suggestions? Well, I'm just gonna hire you for the mailroom. Well, I won't be in the mailroom long. But I noticed that you handle this situation like this, and you handle this like this, and maybe, I might want to be able to contribute. Are you a company that would allow me to contribute to not only your company's success, but my being a part of your company? When do we ever think to ask certain specific questions that would allow us to know if it's the right fit for us, right? So that's the equal exchange. And it's not to upset the apple cart, it's to do it with grace, to allow someone to know that you have more to give than just to answer the questions about what they're asking you. You could fulfill their obligation they want of you, but can they fulfill the obligation you have of them and their company? You see, that is empowerment. And to be empowered in that way is the right way to think. Because then, even if you don't get that job, it wasn't meant for you. Because you have a larger aspiration for yourself, and you have what we all want to be able to do is something to contribute to. And that's very important to remember. So my life has changed because now I read novels, I option books. I've got two options now. I'm writing a memoir, I'm writing a graphic novel, because I've allowed myself to think more for myself. Now I have experience, and I've experienced being crushed by the industry and not getting the roles I wanted to get, but now I create the opportunity for myself. How fulfilling could that be for you?
Dollface asks, what is the biggest difference between acting on camera and motion capture acting, like in a video game like Far Cry 6?
Oh my goodness.
So throw voice acting in there if you want to talk about that too.
Yeah, it's so very different. And Far Cry 6 was a great experience for me. I had done Payday 2. That was a couple of days, 15 years ago. Far Cry 6, the whole reason I wanted to do it. And if you don't allow yourself to experience and to pursue opportunities that allow you to grow and to learn, right? I don't know everything about it. I don't have all the answers. It's when you go, I don't know the answer. When was the last time you said, I don't know? No one in our society can say that now because we're supposed to know because we have a phone. We're supposed to know because we should have done our research. We're supposed to know because we have Google. Well, guess what? I don't know. Let's find out together. To make that okay is to take the pressure off yourself and allow you to find a space to grow in. So I wanted to do Far Cry 6 because I thought it was like, wow, I'm gonna learn something. Little did I know that I'd learn more than I ever imagined I'd learn. I'm in a green suit in a room with, if you look at the ceiling, all these lights, imagine them as being cameras. Every single one, capturing the movement in the whole room. And then I had a helmet on with a ring on it, with a light on the, 2 lights on the side and 3 cameras, mini cameras on that ring, capturing my facial movements. Then I was in a green suit that was so tight, it showed every inch and every piece of my body. And then, yeah, right. That was really uncomfortable, awkward and uncomfortable. And then I had a belt on my waist, which had all the batteries on everything. And so everything I did, and then I had sensors on every knuckle, on everything that bent in my body, so that the computer could make a sense, get a sense of all of my articulation, how I moved, how my eyelids opened and closed, how my facial expressions were. So they're recording everything about me. That, and then I had to, oh yes, forget about that part. Then I had to act through all that to a scene partner, right? Like literally, all that's in my face, light in my face, all of that, and I had to render real emotions. So what did that have me do? It had me learn how to focus, right? Practice your focus. So there's one thing that you can never lose and no one can ever take away from you. It's what's in between your ears. Right? It's your brain, it's your focus, it's what's in your heart, in between your ribs. So to have that kind of laser focus taught me something. I learned about technology, I learned about great artists. They took all that they recorded, me within the room, my facial stuff, and they sent it off to the great artists who then digitized it all and made basically what for an easy way to say it is they made an AI me. And then they colored it all. They could age me, they could make me younger, they could do all this in computer generation after they took my image and my likeness. So I wanted to learn about that. And it was and we were in an empty room where everything was green, and I had to act out a scene with my son, with the people on the boat, with all that. And I thought, wow, this is a way for me to learn a part of the business that I didn't know. So I've directed 2 films as a filmmaker, and I love directing. I've directed 4 or 5 TV shows. I directed episode 6 of Better Call Saul in the last season. Yeah, baby. And that was my directing with the big boys. And that can be nerve-wracking, but it empowered me to realize that I know how to do it. It's the focus and the discipline it took to map it out from the script. And even if you map it out for hours and hours and hours, there's still some things that you aren't gonna know. What does that teach you? That teaches you that you have to take it all in stride, and you have to take people's suggestions. Once you're in something and something that you've already mapped out doesn't work, then you're free. You're free from the map. You're free from the plan. You're free from the expectation that you created in your mind of how you wanted it to go. Well, guess what? Life doesn't go the way you wanted it to go. So you gotta be flexible. You gotta move within the parameters you're given, but then break out of those parameters when you have a vision. And when you have a vision, then and the vision is true, and you've been mindful and thoughtful, then nothing can stop you. So the point is to have focus when everything is trying to take your focus away from what it should be, because there's so many things to focus on. Advertising, our phone, something to buy, 1,000 different movies, television shows, everything is getting our attention. How do you reassess where your attention needs to be? Because at a certain period in your life, you're gonna wanna do something that's gonna require every ounce of your attention. So Far Cry 6 to me was not only fun, it was difficult. Life ain't easy. My work is not easy. I do 17-hour days, I've got 5 pages of dialogue, and they shoot my close-up at the 15th hour when my brain is putty. And if you think so I have a saying that you need to be bulletproof. right? You gotta know it. And my job as an actor is to know my words. And if you don't know it, you gotta make it up so you don't have to cut the camera. Take charge. Jeez, someone out there laughed. Yeah, I just make it up, man. And then I go back. I'll finish a scene. If I have a director I'm working with, and the director cuts as soon as the last word of the scene is said, I will not say the last word of the scene. I have the last sentence of the scene. Before we end the scene, I go back to the beginning of the dialogue. Because so often in my business, they set up for hours and hours and hours and hours, and then they give you 1 or 2 takes. And I want to have 2 or 3 takes. And if I am watching in my brain, that means I'm not completely in the scene. So if I'm watching, when I get to the end of the scene, I go right back to the beginning, and the other actor looks at me and I'm going like, just follow me. I'm not, or I'll just say, don't cut the camera, I'm going back to the beginning, right? You gotta take your moment. You gotta take the space that is yours. You gotta allow, because of our attention is in so many different places on the movies, I tell you, it's ridiculous. Phones are ringing, crap is going on, people are talking. I can hear them out there and I demand silence. And I just stop talking. I say, don't cut the camera, just get silence in the room, please. We're gonna go back to the beginning, right? You all deserve an equal shot at your own, developing your own style and your own focus in your lives. So ask for what you want, right? I just want silence for a minute, right? Ask for it. You deserve to honor yourself with the time and space it takes to do what you need to do so that you can do it the best. Why not? That's what I say, why not?
Hello, Mr. Esposito.
Hi.
I was wondering, what was your favorite role that you ever played?
I have a few favorites. I try not to compare. I think comparisons are interesting. I'll use that word. My favorites are the roles that have allowed me to grow and do something I've never done before. So I'll mention right away Moff Gideon. Moff Gideon allowed me to remember to be a child again, to remember to have fun, to remember to be in wonder, enchantment, joy, and to play. So many times, and you're young, so when we get a little older, we get a little more jaded, and we don't look at life with sometimes, some of us, not all of us, let me qualify that, don't look at life with the same view as we did when we were 10. Like when I was 10, man, everything was like, oh my gosh, it's wonderful, the colors, everything was so bright and gleaming. It can be that way again if you look at it that way. So Moff Gideon allowed me to play again, to be a kid again. When Jon Favreau called me and said he wrote a role for me, he said, do you have any requests? I said, I want a cape. He said, done. I mean, you know what I mean? I went back to when I watched Superman when I was a kid, you know? It's like, give me a cape. And I would be in the mirror with that cape when I first put my costume on, swinging it around, going, wow, this is great, you know? It's really important to not take everything so seriously and to be in that kind of unjaded territory of seeing the world with wonder. It allows you to play. Okay, so we have some 4-letter words I'm gonna throw out there. We have, oh, I thought of one right away. She's like, ooh, 4-letter word, I know what you're thinking. Yeah, me too, I was thinking that too, for half a second. 4-letter words. I'm gonna take 2 of them. One is W-O-R-K, right? Makes you feel a certain way. The other is P-L-A-Y. I've been blessed to play more than I work. When your work becomes play, it changes your life. If you don't, okay, I mean, I can't leave this 4-letter word out. This is really the word I was thinking about to begin with. L-O-V-E. Yeah, you laughing over there. If you don't L-O-V-E what you do, then you are W-O-R-K. If you L-O-V-E what you do, then you are P-L-A-Y. Come on, it's really simple. I'm really a simple guy. You got to enjoy and love what you do if you don't change it, right? Change is good. Change allows you to be in that place that doesn't allow you to know what's going to happen. You're never going to know what's going to happen. You might as well be in the moment, and you might as well let that play out and let that excite you in a way that inspires you. Because it allows you to be in a place where, oh, what am I going to do now? What am I going to do now? Right? That change is good. It's good for us all. When one door closes, another one opens. If you're open, another four-letter word, O-P-E-N, to the new life that you can create for yourself within the old life the old path and the old life that you've been walking every day. There can be a new life for you. It's here. It's in your choice. It's how you see it. And the choices you make for yourself can change your day-to-day and change the rest of your lives.
Sally on Discord asks, what is your process to flesh out a character with impact that may only exist for a single arc or episode, like Gilbert in Community? And adding to that another person's question, and are there any characters who you would like to play again?
Well, I loved Gilbert in Community. I had only a day there, and I was playing in a sandbox of folks who did it very differently than I did. They were all comedians. They kind of learned their lines. I mean, you know, I got there at midnight. I was waiting for a script. I flew in on a plane, got there at midnight. I got the script at 3 a.m. I was with one of my daughters, and she went, maybe you should go to sleep. I said, well, I got to learn the words. And I got up at 6, 3 hours later to go to the set, and nobody knew the words. And I went, oh, it's that kind of party. Okay, I guess I should go. But I kind of figured out what the character is, and I went from there. And I enjoyed the time there. When I have to go in for one day on something or play a guest star, that's very important to me, because that character becomes a linchpin for the whole episode. And I want to be the best I can be. But there are times where I've got to let go of the words and wear the clothing and know where the character's going. And then comes the imagination of play, to be able to, with my own words, make up who that character is and say those words. And I remember working with Spike Lee here years ago at Morehouse College, and Lawrence Fishburne and I didn't really relate to what he'd written in the scene. It just didn't flow the way we wanted to. It was good, but it wasn't like we wanted it to be better. And so Lawrence came to me and said, well, you know, I don't really like what I'm saying. And I said, well, I kind of like what I'm saying, but I could probably say it better, maybe. And he said, well, what are we going to do? And I said, I tell you what, let's do this. We have a lunch break coming up, and why don't you write down what you think your character would say in this scene, and I'll go off at lunch and do the same thing. And then we'll come back after lunch, and when Spike says action, you say what you want to say, and then I'll say what I want to say. And he was like, wow, I think that's brilliant. Neither of us knew what the other was going to say, right? That's life. You're in a regular conversation, you know what someone's going to ask you. Like, she didn't give me the questions she was going to ask me before I got here. Like, you don't know what someone's going to say. And so it worked really well. So much so that Spike said, cut! Who said that? And Lawrence was completely silent. And we had 300 extras on the quad looking at us. And he said, who said that? Again, and I said, I did. And there was a long pause. So Spike was on a ladder with a bullhorn, and he said, it was good, say it again. You never know, man.
I have a fundamentally selfish acting question for myself as an actor. How do you get through those days where you feel like you don't have it, or you have those weird moments where you're spacey, or your brain isn't quite working? How do you center yourself, exercises, mindset, that sort of thing?
Wait, I need you to speak a little bit more into the mic so that I think I got what you said, but I want us all to hear it.
As an actor myself, I'm wondering, do you have any exercises or mindset things that you do on those days where you feel out of it, spacey, to kind of center yourself and get back into it?
So the breath is like the ocean. And sometimes we talk a lot, like I'm doing right now. We forget to do something that's really important. And it's simply to breathe. It's simply to allow there to be space. Within that space is inspiration. My everyday practice is a breathing practice. Because in our world, we're expected to have the answer. We're expected to perform. As an actor, the pressure to be on all the time is great. And so what happens to you inside is you start moving quickly to fill the space. How good does that feel, man? See, all of a sudden there's space. Space for you to think, space for you to love, space for you to feel awkward, space for me to see you, space for me to hear you, not just with my ears, but with my whole heart, my whole being. Like, how do we ever forget that we're electrical beings, right? How do we ever forget that we're 90% water, moved by the tide, moved by the sun and the moon, moved by energy, connected by energy? How do we ever forget that? It's because we move through it and past it and beyond it. It's because we hide from ourselves. It's because we hide from each other. It's because, God forbid, you really see me. Maybe you won't approve. It's because we want each other's approval, but we don't do what it takes to get it. Like, I see you. I hear you. Believe in yourself. Right? Because if you're asked to be a creative being, you're not right. You're not right. You're a little off. You're a little creative. You're a little out there. You gotta allow that to be all right. Like, I mean, why can't you be normal? Why can't you be normal? Because you're not. No one is. Every one of us is organically special. We bring something different to the table, to our society, to our community, to our world, no matter what we do. So you have to accept the fact that not every day you're going to feel good. You make a choice to try, but develop a practice, whether it's a prayer practice, a breathing practice, right? That's what does it for me. Gustavo Fring would never exist without my meditation practice. That's what allowed me to know that what I'm afraid of is the silence. In the silence, there's love, there's beauty, there's tranquility, there's awkwardness, yes. What I'm afraid of is to be judged. As an actor, get this. Doesn't matter how slow I speak. If I'm on film, they can cut that out. Give yourselves the space in your lives, the space in your acting practice, to allow yourself to stumble, to allow yourself the time to be who you are, to show us all of who you are. Don't be afraid of being judged. You're going to be judged anyway, whether you're afraid of it or not. Right? So I have a daughter who's 20 years old. She says, Papa, you know you're a little autistic. I say, really? No, I'm not. She says, you're on the spectrum, Papa. You need to get with the program. And I go, okay, that's okay. Right? You think differently. You act differently. You have great creative gifts. It's okay. And you know, I finally realized that for me to accept me, for all my foibles and all the things that I've been talking about in the last 5 minutes, is for me just to understand that I might be extremely awkward, I might be extremely cool as well. I'm afraid to make mistakes. I want to do everything right. I'm a perfectionist, AAA personality. That is okay, right? It's not okay if you don't know it and you try to cover it up and you try to mask it and you don't allow people to see who you really are. So I encourage you to keep going with your acting practice and work. And why not be funky one day? I'm a little off, I can't get back on track. What do? I meditate, I breathe. But sometimes I'm still not right. But you see, we become human beings that we don't allow that to be okay. And you know what? It's all right, right? It's okay. We're all just working through the journey. But instead, some of us want to get to the end result. Stardom, fame, right? We want approval. We want that as opposed to being in the journey of what it takes to get there. The journey that it takes to get there is the journey for you to accept you and to love yourself for who you are right now, today. Love yourself, the most important thing.